Hello, it's Anna Hill here with the Farming Today podcast. As UK beef arrives on shop shelves in the United States, will the trade really make a difference to British farmers?
It is not transformational, but 13,000 tonnes is nothing to sneeze at.
We'll have more on that a little later. First today, farmers are being asked to join a project to investigate whether growing a variety of the common dandelion could solve a worldwide shortage of natural rubber. Natural rubber production has been falling in its native sites in Southeast Asia because of disease and climate change. Well, farmers here might balk at the idea of growing a pernicious weed like dandelions, but the idea is to do it indoors in hydroponic or aeroponic systems where there's no risk of spread. Dr. Ofer Meir, head of Quota, is leading the project. I joined him in the lab to see the growing dandelion crop. Let's have a look at some of these plants because to me they look like a dandelion but with quite a long stem to the flower and quite delicate leaves. When I'm gardening and I'm pulling out dandelions from my garden, they have one big root. Are these the same or are they a bit different?
They are similar but quite different. They are very gentle. They are not going to survive if they will escape to the environment. They are shorter and they are from the same family. We call them dandelions, but they're quite different if you look at the genome. We like them because they can produce high quality of rubber.
The species was already evident in Kazakhstan and developed for rubber production, but growing out in the open, you're doing it a bit differently, aren't you? And you're also using gene editing to select.
One part of our innovation is we need to look how to bring this crop and to make it more commercially available. So to increase the rubber and how we can use it. So we are looking at hydroponic or aeroponic system that will allow us to have a lot of fruits. So imagine we will create a factory of fruits that you can harvest again and again and again with consistent quality of natural rubber. We built a consortium and we got the support from Innovate UK. This was a specific consortium that we built with John Innes Center, where we are based, and another company that is doing aeroponic growth, Let Us Grow. And the idea was how to help farmers in the UK to have another profitable crop for the future.
But indoors?
But indoors. This is the innovation. So what we are doing is that we are optimizing the system, how we will grow them, and also we are using genome editing tools in order to improve the rubber yield.
Well, we've got some plants here and we're just looking that they're growing in a tray and underneath their roots are allowed to dangle into the water I can see below there.
And now what we are trying to see where we will get more rubber. Is it from the one big taproot or from the lateral roots? And what is nice in this system that you can see here, and this is small trials that we are checking different conditions, is to see at which point we will get the peak of natural rubber production. So we are testing different conditions and different nutrients, but aeroponic and hydroponic, the benefit of this system that you're getting a lot of fruits and fast growing roots.
Who is going to use the rubber produced from a dandelion?
Because we can control the quality of the plants because it's in closed environment, our beachhead market is the fashion and medical industries. These industries are interested in high quality and guaranteed and consistent quality of natural rubber. This is where we have already collaboration with companies that are using it for wetsuits, for shoes, or medical devices like gloves or drugs. So there's a lot of application, more than 50,000 products that require natural rubber. So we just need to choose which one we are going to use.
Dr. Ofer Meir from Quota. The land use framework is due to be published soon, so all week we're talking about the varied pressures on farmland, from energy production to growing food. Deepdale Farm on the North Norfolk coast has sandy, loamy soil. For many years, one of its fields produced a healthy crop of carrots, but continual production combined with serious high rainfall events led to a catastrophic degradation of the soil, and in 2020 the field slipped and flooded into the village below. It was a massive shock and led to a wholesale reassessment of how the land is managed, leading to farmer Anna Beastie converting the holding to organic, bringing in cover crops, flood protection systems and converting more land to environmental schemes. I met her in the field that had been restored. I've come to North Norfolk and I'm looking out over quite a typical scene here, right on the coast. We're in a field, but in front of us are the marshes and then beyond them the dunes and then the North Sea. Anna, land use is something that you've had to learn rapidly about because you had quite a scary incident, didn't you, a few years ago?
Yeah, so in the winter of 2020, after months of continuous rainfall, one of our fields that had previously had carrots in it had been ploughed, been left bare, and after continuous rainfall, the ground just could not hold any more water. And one night, the ground just shifted, it started moving. We have one field that's actually, it's 1 kilometre from the top to the bottom.
We're looking at it now. It's a gently sloping upwards, but there is a hill.
The movement of the water, it just carved ravines. We're on light sandy loam soil, pushed it down through, unfortunately, a cottage which lies just at the bottom of the field, out onto the road, down into the village. Thankfully didn't cause problems for the church, but the road was blocked with muddy water, and that was our natural capital that had flowed off the soil out down into the village and then eventually out to sea.
You've had to rethink how you farm your land.
Norfolk Rivers Trust came to the rescue and they helped us plan how we could mitigate for flooding. They mapped the farm for flooding. They brought in diggers to create these bunds or ditches towards the bottom of the field. A bank halfway up with a little ditch just behind it, and as kind of last resort, a drainage ditch at the bottom, which thankfully has not actually been needed since that occasion, because they also funded for us cover crops, and having continuous cover on this soil has just made such a difference. We've had to take what is a 25 hectare field, and in order to make this farm work, we have had to take some of it out of food production, but it is doing another job. We've got 2 cropped plots, plus we've got our flower mix. So that has been a permanent crop for the last 5 years, and we're now in the 6th year with our countryside stewardship rollover. So that ground hasn't been bare for 5.5 years now.
What was proven, I suppose, in that instance when the flooding happened was you were actually not doing the right thing for the land.
Yeah, on our type of soil, having carrots and then not planting the cover crop after the carrots had been harvested, which that was how a lot of conventional farming happened and still does happen. Root crops in this field are not the right thing.
What if a land use framework had looked at your field here and said, actually, no, you shouldn't be planting carrots here, that's not a good idea?
It might have helped, particularly if there was the reasoning behind it. Understanding the flood risk within their farm is key to the start of that, because actually where do the slopes go? Understanding their soils, what type of soils do they have, what is the best use for that land, that definitely needs to happen. The flood risk mitigation needs to be thought about very, very seriously, and maybe farmers do need to be made to do that because it would solve a huge amount of runoff issues.
Anna Beastie there in Norfolk. The first shipment of tariff-free UK beef has arrived on shop shelves in the United States, timed to coincide with a trade mission led by the DEFRA Secretary Emma Reynolds. The UK beef is part of the UK-US trade deal, which allows a reciprocal movement of 13,000 tonnes of US and UK beef across the Atlantic. For British farmers, the government claims the deal is worth £70 million a year if the quota is fully used. The UK's total food and drink exports were worth £25 billion last year, and only £2 billion of that went to the US. DEFRA says that shows there's a real opportunity to increase sales to America. However, farmers here are concerned that any further arrangement could mean allowing American products into the UK which don't meet equivalent animal welfare or environmental standards. Dmitry Grozubinski is a former trade negotiator, now at consultants Explain Trade. I asked him how significant this particular trade deal is.
Well, it is 13,000 more tons than you could have sold into the US market before, at least on an equal tariff footing with some of your main competitors. So it is something. It is not transformational. It's a fraction of what, for example, Australia receives at the same rate into the United States, or indeed what it now receives into the United Kingdom under the Australia-UK Free Trade Agreement. Lowering tariffs is only half the picture. There's a market development aspect to this as well. Building up the brand of UK beef is also very important.
Yeah, and it looks like they're going for quality first.
I think that makes perfect sense. The UK market can compete on quality, it can compete on perceptions of being bio and of being ethical. At the same time, if it's trying to compete on pure cost, it's facing some incredibly stiff competition from markets with lower levels of regulation, lower costs of living and thus lower wages, and vast economies of scale. We are talking about, farms in Australia that might be 1 million hectares, farms the size of Belgium. That is very difficult to compete with on price. So the UK has to find an edge somewhere else.
How does the government here guarantee that UK farmers won't be undermined on, say, welfare or environmental standards from imports of US beef?
Nothing about this changes what is permissible for sale in the United Kingdom. If previously a particular cut of beef, due to the hormones that went into it, for example, were illegal for sale in the UK, they remain illegal to this day. Beyond that, there's a sort of broader question of differences in what you called their standards, how animals are looked after, what is permissible. That is and remains a challenge. I would say that the amount of access that the UK has provided US beef producers is not of the kinds of volumes that risks swamping UK markets.
I just wanted to ask you a question about the current situation globally, about the action that the US has taken in the Middle East and the possible disruption to trade there. Will that have an impact?
This is a lot of disruption to shipping and energy production in the Gulf. So any disruption to the Strait of Hormuz, which is the passage of water through which a lot of the world's oil supplies have to travel to get out of the Gulf and to make it to refineries and to customers abroad, is potentially facing disruption. We've already seen the price of oil spike considerably. Qatar is suspending LNG production, and Qatar is a major liquid natural gas producer. All of that translates into higher energy prices and higher insurance premiums on shipping. That creates inflationary pressure. So while perhaps the products that British farmers may be shipping likely won't be too affected, as most of them would not go through that region, there is long-running effects to the global economy and to the inputs that farmers use, as well as a broader kind of chilling effect on the global economy, which they need to be wary of.
Dmitry Grozubinski. That's all from us today. I'm Anna Hill. The producer was Rebecca Rooney. Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.